Well, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity today to speak. Like Devin said, my name is Kassie, and I work at Greensboro Public Library. I always appreciate when presentations kind of tell you what to expect. So we're going to talk a little bit about what Greensboro Library is, what the ecosystem is, my philosophy, our philosophy, and how we approach business reference, what that has resulted in, and what we're looking to for the future. I have been there since 2021. Before that, I was the business librarian at High Point Public Library. Let's see a little bit more about educational history, my email, if you want to contact me, and I have business cards if you want to talk later. That's totally fine. And here we go. So, Greensboro Public Library was founded in 1902. We have a main central branch, which is this picture here. We have 7 other branches, and we have a museum. These stats here are from fiscal year 2023 to 2024. So we're quite busy. And I work as a business librarian and nonprofit. This position was created in the records I could find went back to 1986, so it may have existed before that, but it's been at least 39 years, so longer than I've been around. And over the years, it's had some evolution, but there's also been some things that stay the same. So what the business librarian does is meets with patrons one-on-one to kind of provide research assistance. We curate business content, whether that's books, ebooks, databases, cool websites that we think will be helpful. I'm in charge of the business pages on our website, making sure that they're up to date and current and reflect everything that I think should be on there. And then also everything else. So that's working the reference desk, that's doing nights and weekends. At times that is weeding, book selection, customer service, computer help, how do I reset my password? You know, as librarians, we end up doing all sorts of different things. And that is not any different for the business librarian. But what is the ecosystem? Because, of course, this presentation is about defining our role in the Greensboro business ecosystem. And I know we're all here from North Carolina, or most of us are from North Carolina, but as a refresher, the Greensboro economic ecosystem here is actually part of the Piedmont Triad, which is Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and High Point. It's 12 counties. There's 2 major interstates, 40 and 85. We have the Piedmont Triad Airport. There are over 20 colleges and 1.7 million people who live here. So that's a lot. And we are growing quite a bit right now. There's talk about Toyota coming, lots of other places coming. We are ripe for business expansion. And that means that there's a lot of opportunity to support not just these big guys, but the little guys as well. So the best way and probably the most comprehensive group that works when I talk about the ecosystem is the Triad Small Business Consortium. Now that was founded in 1988. Currently, we have 97 members from over 50 organizations. I have put the logos of some of the major ones here. You can see there's, some of these will be familiar because they're all over the state, all over the country. College, campus things, SCORE is national. The GTCC is part of the community college group. So some of these you're going to find everywhere. And some of them are unique to us, but they have equivalents other places. And to join, you just have to work for a entrepreneurial support organization and get added to the listserv. So we have a listserv where we can share programs that we're doing, opportunities, maybe some grant funding that's going on. We meet 10 times a year virtually, and we can share whatever and get feedback. network. It's really low-key, but also really helpful. We cross-promote, ask for advice, collaborate. And being part of this organization has created a symbiotic relationship. So I like to joke, and if you've ever talked to a business librarian, most of us did not go into librarianship expecting to be a business librarian. We kind of fall into it, so to speak. So I don't really know how to give business advice. I don't know a lot of the business lingo. I don't have experience with Ettefagh and finance and whatever. But what our strength is research. And so I refer people to these organizations that are better able to help with the technical business stuff. They refer people to me when people need market research, business plan support, general how-to things. So it's kind of worked out really well that I get to play to my strengths and they get to play to theirs. Now again, 50 people, and they all know now that I am the business researcher, but how do we stand out? Because that's 50 people. And I don't want to also overlook the fact that even me personally, I am a librarian. I know that libraries provide a lot of value, but if I'm starting a business, I don't know that I would have thought, let me start at the library. I'd be like, let's go to the chamber, let's go to the incubator. So how do we get people to think of us? How do we compete with the classes that these experts are already doing with more success? They have more skill, they have more knowledge, and like I said, they have more interest because people don't naturally think, oh, I'll go to the library for business help. So to borrow a term from the business world, because you do pick up stuff, even though, like I said, I had no idea what I was doing when I started, we had to define our unique value proposition. What is it that we do, that we add value? What's our niche that we can provide that's complementing what else exists? Especially in a post-COVID world, program attendance has been down at the library, at least in my programs. But that's also been the case in the ecosystem. We've got community colleges who are doing over 40 free classes every 2 weeks. That's 20 classes a week that they're doing for free. SCORE, if you haven't checked out the SCORE website, it's score.org. SCORE is a fabulous business resource. They have mentors, they have recorded classes, live classes. If your organization is not if your local organization is not doing as much classes, you can take something from anywhere in the country. And if your local SCORE chapter doesn't have a mentor who is knowledgeable in what you need help with, you can get a mentor from anywhere in the country. Don't want to neglect the nonprofit side. Candid is a nonprofit organization that helps nonprofits. They have at least one live class per week as well. And then all these organizations, which SCORE, like I said, SCORE is, I should have said this earlier, business executives and business professionals who donate their time helping other people become business entrepreneurs and successful that way. The SBTDC is the Small Business and Technology Development Center. Ours is through NCA&T, but they're also all across Rhode Island. They're all across North Carolina. I'm from Rhode Island. GTCC is the community college. Every community college in the state has a small business center that offers mentorship and free classes as well. So again, lots of people already doing lots of things. Just little old me. I mean, I'm not trying to sell myself short, but I'm one person. So we've kind of focused more on providing excellent service through these one-on-ones and focusing on the data and the research. I'm not telling you whether you should start an LLC or an S-Corp or a sole proprietorship. I'm not telling you which form you need or whether you should expand or not or how to get a loan. But I can tell you really well how to get the data to make that decision. So, in other words, we've made the library part of the conversation when it comes to economic development and research, entrepreneurship, small business, we have a seat at the table. And I say we because I was not the first one to join the consortium. Like I said, this position was created pre-1986. The consortium itself was created in 1988. Other librarians before me took those steps. And you can't underestimate the value of working together, using those connections, building on what came before you. We've been part of the conversation for a while. But, we have to continue to advocate for ourselves, because just because they take us seriously now doesn't mean they always did, doesn't mean they always will. And I don't even mean that in a malicious thing. I mean that we have to be visible. If I stopped going to these meetings, if I stopped networking with these people when I saw them, would they think of me? I don't think it's malicious, but you remember what you see. And there's also, there's turnover in these organizations as well. So right now, everybody knows what I do. But if other people leave their job or move on, will those new people know what I do? So I can't state enough how valuable it is to be present, be visible, to make your voice heard. Now, I talked about those one-on-ones. What exactly do I mean by that? Of course, we all know the reference interview. We know reader's advisory. How does that look for business? So I kind of informally call it research mentorship. Just like how all these other mentors are mentoring in the business aspects, I'm a mentor in the research aspects. And that boils down to empowerment, not dependence. People will let you do as much work for them as you are willing to do. And that is a really quick way to burn out. What I want to do is create people to develop their confidence that they can research for themselves. My goal is not to create dozens of people who email me every time they have a question. It's to help them be confident enough to try on their own. So in these one-on-ones, I show them how. So we have business databases. You all have business databases. NC Live has been great at providing those. I show them how to do it. Of course, before we even meet, I ask, hey, what are you looking to find out? Because also I'm a librarian and I can talk for hours, and they end up knowing more than they need to know. So we really have to keep it focused. Like, what do you need to know? I sit with them. We get that information together. So by that, I mean, if you're starting a pizza joint, we're looking up pizza industry reports and other pizza places that are already existing. I'm not going to show you oh, hey, you want to know how to do market research? Let's look up coffee shops. Again, it's not about, I want to emphasize, it's not about I don't want to help people, but it's about enabling them to long-term be able to do it for themselves. So they walk out of meetings with me with some of the information they're looking for. I give them instructions, because by then usually their head is spinning. Let it settle, take a break. I'll email them anything I need to email them. I have some pre-written instructions that I don't have to write out every time, but I can say as a reminder, this is what you do. NC Live, again, has been really great. If you haven't checked out their resources for a quick guide to data axle, for example, I can send them that video as a refresher. If you need help, you can check this out. I have them try it, and then they can touch base as they need to. So again, it's not about setting them loose and never talking to them again. It's about slowly growing independence. And part of that, I tell people when I meet with them 3 things. 1, you have to be creative. We're doing market research on a budget. If you were to Google industry report coffee shop, yeah, you'd find plenty of them that they're willing to sell you for several $1,000s. As small business people, you can't afford that. So that means sometimes you have to be creative. In these databases, fabulous as they are, they may not cover everything. So look for ways that you can get the information you need without having to pay for it. And what do I mean by that? For an example, I helped someone who was doing a halal food truck. And so there is no, all businesses are categorized by code on what their industry is. There is no industry code for halal. So how do I use Data Axle to find that? Well, we did a search in the name of the business for halal. We did a keyword search. Is that going to pick up every halal restaurant in Greensboro? No. But is business research ever about finding 100% of the answer, or is it about finding a good enough answer? And we got them a list of where they could start and track down and see what's going on. So that's just an example of like how to, don't just stop at, oh, well, this isn't there. You got to, 3 lefts make a right kind of thing. Second, be curious. This goes for computer research in general, and when you're teaching people how to use computers and technology in general. I tell them, or they'll ask me like, do you have exactly this? I'm like, well, I don't know. Let's try. Click on this link, try this new thing. Oh, hey, I don't know what that is. What's the worst that can happen? You're not going to break it. I find that people relax a lot when they realize that I'm not following some really strict script that if you click the wrong thing, 2 + 2 suddenly equals 5. It's okay to click around, find out, investigate. I don't know what I'm going to find. Let's try. And again, I already talked about this, but reach out when stuck. I'm not going to abandon people. You just gotta, just give it a try, reach out, and we'll figure out where to go from there. Sincerely not knowing something is not anything to be ashamed of. The issue that I try to encourage is, try. All that being said, I talked about all the programs that everybody else is doing. We have backed off a little bit on traditional programming. Of course, I consider these one-on-ones to still be programs. They're just very, very hyper-specific programs. But I still do some programming. What that means is not necessarily how to start a business, but it's how to use Data Axle, how to write a business plan, things that expose people to the research we have and emphasize the research aspect of being a successful business owner. I'll partner with local organizations. We'll do special interest topics like the City Kitsch, which I know originated in Charlotte. They have a Greensboro branch, and we had them come give a talk about starting a food business as opposed to just a generic business talk, and that was definitely of interest to the people that we saw. And I'm a guest speaker. I talk to, again, I'm part of that ecosystem. There's some events that I talk to regularly. There's some that have newly developed. Like for the first time ever, I was a guest and a presenter at the UNCG pitch competition. So, is that a traditional program in the library? Maybe not, but is it exposing the library to people who maybe would not think of it? Yeah, absolutely. I tell people all the time I love to go out and speak to other organizations because of that. It's a way to show people who aren't already there what we have to offer. Which brings me to yet another point. Take advantage of opportunities to show your value. If you want to be invited to have a seat at the table, you need to clearly show why you deserve a seat at the table. Show up to the meetings. Don't skip them because you think they're going to be boring. Share flyers for your programs to the local business center, to these listservs or what have you. Go to events to the extent that you can. Just be visible. Start having people connect your face and the library with business and not just books and shelves and shelves and shelves of books. I am not a naturally outgoing person, but I can't tell you the number of times I explain what I do and people say, oh, wow, I didn't know the library did that. And just a side note, like, I don't think it's enough to be like, oh, we provide this for free. Free sometimes it's like, wow, this is a great value. Sometimes it's like, oh, you provide it for free because it's not worth much to begin with. Every industry report that I share with customers, and I tell them this, every industry report I share with customers costs at least $139. And these industry reports from this one specific organization that I'm thinking of, they come out every 3 months. And they also have various levels of specificity. So if, to continue my examples, I'm doing a pizza place or a coffee shop, there might be a coffee shop business plan, but then there's like a fast service industry report. There's a coffee shop industry report. There's a coffee shop, or there's a fast food industry report, and then there's a restaurant service industry report. So if they get just those 3 plans every 3 months to get the updates, that is several $100s. I cannot do that math in my head, but you get the idea. 400 something. What else? You have to, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but you have to convince people who aren't already going to the library that they should try the library. And they won't lose anything by giving it a try. And then once they're in, you get to wow them with how amazing we are. What does that mean? Does it work? Well, since I got here, December 2021, I've helped 597 people. That is individually. So that's not anyone who comes to a program. That is individually, I met with 597 people through the end of April. Not all of them, this is the tricky part, not all of them, obviously, go on to start a business. But that's okay. I still consider that a success. Because sometimes the best way you can help people is showing them all this research and all this data and everything they need, and they decide, you know what, before I take out the loan, maybe I need to reconsider what I'm doing. As a total side note, it is very challenging. We talked recently in a meeting about, well, how do you tell if what you're doing is successful? As a business librarian, it is hard to know if you're being successful, because if you are successful, they figure out how to do it, they're confident in doing it, they start the business, you never hear from them again. It's like a successful doctor doesn't have any patients because they're all healthy. So it's challenging, but it can be very worthwhile. Oop, wrong way. Now, here are just 3 companies that I've helped that have gone on to be rather successful. One of my people that I've helped actually won an NC Idea grant. Yes, NC Idea is in the house. One is a nonprofit, and at least Greensboro is saturated with nonprofits. But one nonprofit that I met with very early on, they won a micro grant, and they've been in business now for probably almost 3 years. Their goal is not huge. Their goal is to help 3 high school seniors a year. Just 3. But they figured out that works for them, and it's successful, and that's still 9 people whose lives they've changed through this nonprofit. And then there's a candle company that actually sells in 22 states and internationally. I can't say that I had too much to do with that. She was already doing pretty well when she met with me. But I like to think that at least now she knows that she can get industry reports and candle research through the library instead of using her hard-earned money to do that. Now, the fun part, the future. What does the future look like? I'm going to continue doing one-on-ones. It's hard. Again, there's only one of me. So sometimes, I try to triage a little bit. Like, do you actually need to meet with me, or can this be a phone call? Can this be an email? It saves everybody's time. Because if they're asking me, well, I want you to help me find a grant to start a business, like I can tell them right off the bat, you don't need to meet with me. Those don't really exist. You're not going to get free money to start a business. So, things have had to evolve. I can't just automatically meet with every single person who asks. Sometimes it is the phone call or the email instead. We're going to continue filling that niche that we defined, the business research. As librarians, just like we can't give legal advice, really shouldn't be giving business advice either. So that is an area that I'm going to stay well clear of. We're going to continue identifying, expanding, and creating tools that entrepreneurs can use on their own. I hope to start doing some, just like NC Live with their videos. I hope to put some videos together of like, oh, you need a refresher of how to do this? Here's my step-by-step walkthrough how to do this in video. We've been really great. We've gotten some really great databases recently, the Gale business databases that help people, they actually walk through, they end up with a business plan at the end of it. So that's just an example of how we're trying to provide resources and help for people in multiple formats and in multiple ways so that we can help the people who are independent already and still help the people who need a little more guidance. And it helps me manage my workload because they have other resources for when I'm unavailable. Above all, we want to remain connected to the ecosystem because the less work that we duplicate among ourselves, the more people we can help as a whole. And ultimately, that's what this is all about. So that is what I have. And thank you for listening. We do have time if anyone has any questions, or Devin, I will leave it to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned the Gale database and SPORE.org. Are there any other resources that you would recommend people kind of using?
Yeah. So SCORE, the Gale database, we have, of course, NC Live. There are three main databases that are really great for business is ABI Inform, Data Axle, and then Social Explorer. So among those three, ABI Inform does trade journals and industry reports is what I primarily find use for them as a public librarian. Data Axle is really great for identifying either competitors, like who else is already doing what I want to do, or if you're a business that does business-to-business sales, it helps you find people who potentially will buy your product that you can reach out to and say, hey, you do this, I sell this, let's connect. And then Social Explorer is really great for market research, consumer research, what are the demographics of my customers or this area, and psychographics, what do they believe, what do they think, how do they act. Other than that, two others I would say, one is, it's called EDPNC. That's the Economic Development Partnership in North Carolina. They are great for when people ask, like, do I need a business license? Do I need what form do I need for this? What do I need for that? That is a statewide organization. They provide help for free. NC Idea is starting a cohort program. Would that be accurate? Training librarians on how they can do business research. So I think the first one starts soon, but check your emails, I guess. I did think of two more. Sorry, guys. NCLA has a listserv for business librarians called Blink, BLNC, Business Librarians in North Carolina. We email back and forth like, hey, I'm having trouble with this question. Do you have an answer? We do quarterly meetings just to keep our skills sharp. And everyone's welcome to join. You don't have to be a member of NCLA or of Blink, although, of course, both of those are appreciated. And the last one was, again, check out your local community college, because they are offering classes on all sorts of topics. And I can say that for a fact because if I'm in Guilford County, this sounds really dumb, but one of the nice things about COVID, again, I realize how dumb that sounds. One of the nice things is that a lot of these classes went virtual. And so if Guilford County isn't offering a class, but Wilmington is, my people in Guilford County can watch the virtual conference from Wilmington. So you get access, they get access to classes from all over the state. Yeah.
Kassie, that was wonderful. And you were like finished on the dot. That could have been an investor pitch. I feel like.
I was trying to not get off track.
No, you just that was amazing. Yeah, we would love if there were like 300 more Kassies around. And I know that you, a lot of the time, point to the ways that you were sort of self-taught in terms of how to be a business librarian and how to really effectively work with entrepreneurs. I also know you mentioned some people like John Rayner that were useful to you early on, but what are some of the things that you would point to that were like, as you were self-teaching, what was really useful for you? Maybe it was a certain resource or a certain source of information or a certain habit that you developed, something. What helped you along the way?
I read a lot. One thing, just like we have a subscription to the Triad business journal, so your local business journal, it helps to know what's going on in the area. NC Live is always doing continuing ed stuff, so they're great just for what is ABI Inform? I'm confused. They're probably doing a training, or they will be doing a training, or if you let them know, hey, I'd be interested in a training on this, there's a greater chance it'll happen. It probably goes back to one of those three things: be curious. Read those emails that come from the listservs. Don't just delete them. I sign up for so many webinars, and I don't make it to most of them, but at least I have them on recording. So we all have those days where work is just not happening. So I save the webinars for those days. So when my brain just doesn't want to do any of the higher level stuff, I can put the webinar on and still have a productive day. So those would be probably 3 ways to at least get started. Yeah.
What about the schedule flexibility? So when you have your different duties and tasks, how do you manage that?
It's hard. It's definitely hard to manage, all the different responsibilities. And for that, I can only say, 1, lean on your coworkers if you have them. I'm very fortunate that I have really great coworkers that are willing to switch things up, change schedules, whatever. I have a boss that is also pretty good about oh, hey, there's this meeting I need to go to, but it's at 8:00 and I'm not supposed to work till 9. Oh yeah, that's fine. You can figure that out. It really comes down to asking for help and setting those boundaries. We kind of have a phrase that I don't know if my boss wants to hear, but there is no library emergency. So don't get so caught up in, oh my God, I have so many people I need to see, and when am I going to find time to do this? They can wait. They really can. Is it ideal sometimes? No, but if they contact you and they're like, I have a meeting with my mentor, I need my business plan by 5:00 today, that's not really your problem. I mean, you can work with them, but there's nothing wrong with saying, I understand that. Here's some resources you can work on this afternoon, but we're not going to be able to meet until next week. Protect your time. Did that answer it?
Yes, there's one part you're missing. So when you're thinking about how the different times of the year ebb and flow, which I know you work closely with a career librarian, and you all notice different trends within the community. You want to highlight that to kind of speak about how you can change and, flex the different type of things you do.
Yeah, so we also, Greensboro has a career librarian. We've noticed something very interesting, that when I'm very busy, she's less busy. And when I'm less busy, she's very busy. And it kind of makes sense. Like, the economy fluctuates, and whether people are going to start their own business or they want to just stick with letting someone else take all the risk. When that happens, it turns into, well, how can I support you? We stay in touch, talking all the time about different trends. In the past, we've partnered on financial literacy kind of programs. We're really trying to work, and this is new, but we're trying to find ways that we can program together or connect. She has her contacts, I have my contacts, and we're trying to introduce each other to everything, because business and career does overlap a lot. And so she maybe is taking the lead a little bit more right now on the one-on-ones, but in exchange, I'm picking up other slack other places and working on those more passive ways of teaching people. Yeah.
Do you have a template, to different types of templates that you use for different types of people that reach out to you, as far as the resources you mentioned, some databases, and not just links, but specific deep dives into what would help them most?
Yeah, so I have a nonprofit template and I have a business template. And both of those are probably as comprehensive as they can be at this point. And when someone has a question or wants help with something and I get an idea, from doing librarianship, people never just come out and say what they need. They come at it sideways. So once you figure out what they actually need, it's a matter of taking out anything that's not useful and then putting in what is. And then I can flip it a little bit. So, for example, it might say okay, in ABI Inform, search using this NAICS code, which NAICS codes are Dewey Decimal codes, basically. And I can just insert here's the NAICS code that you should use. That kind of thing. When I say I want to teach people to do it for themselves, it's a little more advanced. That's 301 level class. So I'll just tell them these are some NAICS codes you may be interested in. So we'll plug and play that way.
What would you recommend for a library that's not in the Triad, that doesn't have necessarily the Triad Business Consortium? How would you recommend doing some of that local research and finding those community partners?
So, yeah, that's a great question. I'd start with the Chamber of Commerce. Start with GTs, or your community college definitely knows what's going on. Because, like I said, every community college, and there are 100 of them, they all have a small business center. Contact me or contact, probably Devin would know too, the Blink listserv, because we are business librarians from all over the state. So you might have a college nearby that would know, or they have contacts. It's a little bit of legwork. But I also think there's more. I tell people all the time, being a librarian is not about having the right answer. Sometimes it's about knowing someone who's more likely to have the right answer. So between the Chamber of Commerce, the universities and colleges, you should be able to find someone who can then introduce you to everybody else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.